given by our wonderful spiritual director, Charlene Banks. We're so glad you joined us today. Please feel free to add to the chat or in the comments any prayer requests or celebrations that you would like us to include later in the service when we provide our community spiritual mind treatment, which is a form of affirmative prayer. We invite you to get comfortable and relax into this moment as we will begin our service.
Please join us as we create our sacred space. We set our intentions of deepening into our awareness and practice of our 5 pillars of spiritual living by lighting this candle in our virtual world. Our first pillar is sacred study, represented by the divine quality of truth. We use this pillar to recognize the importance of an open mind and the power of our minds. The second pillar is affirmative prayer, represented by the divine quality power. This pillar honors the power of prayer in our daily lives. Our third pillar is meditation and the divine quality of peace. This pillar reminds us of the importance of meditation and the peace we feel when we quiet our minds. The fourth pillar is circulation and the divine quality of life. We know that the great law of circulation works in our lives. As we give, so shall we receive. And the fifth pillar is sacred service and the divine quality of love. This pillar affirms our call to be of service to our world as we see through the eyes of love. Let us close our eyes as we bless this sacred space and our time together. As we weave each of these pillars of spiritual living into our service today, may they deepen our own spiritual practices of study, prayer, meditation, circulation, and service, expanding our minds and our hearts to the 5 divine qualities of truth, power, peace, life, and love. We also bless everyone who made our service possible today and everyone in attendance. May the energy of love that is generated here bless everyone abundantly, and so it is.
And so it is. Hello and welcome. Thank you, Renee Berger, for introducing. That was just a wonderful job. Did great. And I just want to invite everyone to just breathe. No matter where you came from in this very moment, whether you were rushing up the stairs to get in front of your computer or whether you were rushing through traffic to get to a spot, you're here now. All is well. So we're going to take a moment and do our community meditation where we simply sit in one heart, one space, one mind, and we just breathe together as a community, knowing that as we do this practice of of meditation, this spiritual practice of mindfulness, that we deepen and widen our awareness of the divine. So go ahead and settle in. If you can find a comfortable position, letting the gongs breathe us. This quietude. Where we are aware of our oneness with the divine. Where all is well. The core essence of our being has never been hurt or harmed in any way is whole. For the indwelling spirit is the one spirit that lives and moves through all life. It is not outside of us, it is right here, right where we are. The presence is divine essence, this feminine energy envelops our body with that loving embrace. It allows us to rest in the knowing that we are loved. Now, in our mind's eye, I would like us to imagine a light inside of our very being that emanates out. It emanates out past our body, our physical body. It emanates out about a foot around us. This is our light. Our particular, beautiful, luminescent light. Do you see that? Do you feel that? Is it pulsing as we breathe in and out? Does it have a color? This is our energy. This is our essence that we bring, our unique spin on the universal love that is everywhere present. This is our take on it. Now, in your mind's eye, extend that orb of loving light to surround your body by about 3 feet. Like a bubble of beautiful lightness. You are the center of this light. There's love, there's well-meaning, well-beingness, there's wholeness, there's purifying energy just swirling in this bubble. And now I'd like in your mind's eye to join me in extending this bubble of light, energy, love, and empowerment to your entire neighborhood. Pulsating with this swirling energy of love and goodness and well-meaning and well-beingness, all of the positive attributes that no one would ever deny, that no one would ever not accept. Just putting out there all well thoughts of your neighborhood, and now pushing that out to your city, Push it out further to your state, enveloping your entire nation with this loving light that you're feeling and knowing is available to all. And now encircle the globe. That's right. Cover the entire earth with your loving energy. Feel it and embracing all of humanity, all that lives and breathes. Every being is covered by your love and your light, your particular flavor of this love and this light that we all are a part of. And we've all seen the latest pictures from the James Webb Telescope. Let's push that love out into all of the galaxies, far and wide, that we can see, those that we can't see, all the realities that have yet to be unfolded and revealed. Just emanate all of it out infinitely in all directions in our mind's eye. It makes me smile to know that as easily as it is imagined, that's as easily as it is done. And when you're ready, begin to bring your awareness back to your toes, leaving the bubble where it is. Our toes are wiggling and our fingers are wiggling. For we can feel ourselves in our bodies, and we can feel our loving intention as it extends everywhere all at once. And it is good. When you're ready, you can gently open your eyes and look anew at the world around you, for it is now just a little more sparkly and just a little more bright. And so it is. And the soul pajamas will now sing for us. Hey guys.
Hi. In the chorus, if you sing along with Dan, feel free to, because it's a call and response. The chorus is. This is by Janice Stanfield. I'm just a spoke in the wheel, one grain of sand, but it feels so right to be right where I am. One little part of a much bigger plan, and the longer I'm here, the more I understand. I am one. We are one.
We are one.
Like the rain of the sun. When it's all said and done, I am one. We are one.
I'm just one drop of rain that falls from the sky and runs to the stream and the ocean by and by. And I could do worse than to give myself up on the crest of a wave in this ocean of love.
I am one. We are one. Like the rain of the sun. When it's all said and done,
That's beautiful. I am one, we are one. It reminds me of last week when we were talking about Indra's net, how we're all one. Even though it looks like I'm separate from you and you're separate from me, the analogy that we used was put a mark, put a speck on one of the jewels in the net and see how that is reflected in all the other jewels. Probably to the point where you don't even know which one originated the dot. We are one. Whatever we think into this oneness, we're affecting it. And so that's the talk. That's the topic. You and me create society. I think it's cute the way they kind of did the wrong English there so that it rhymes. I'm like, isn't it you and I? Oh, I get it. They're trying to, okay, got it. So it's cute and it's true. You and I and all of us, we create society. So we started with week 1. It was, you have to love yourself. The relationship month. If you don't start with yourself, then something's wrong. You can't fix it out there. That's not real. It's got to start from inside. And then we talked about you and I are we, last week. And so if you and I are we, then you and me, all of us, we create the whole society. And society is a tricky little word. Society. Because think about this. It's a gathering of people who live and work and play together, even though they're different from one another. Now, the difference is where we get in trouble, right? We start to possibly draw some lines, and then there's competition. One of us wants to be better than others. There's that word. And if I can make sure that my group of people is better than your group of people, then I'll take advantage of all of the good that I can get. And then it becomes a game of power mongering and all of that. So how do we create a society that is in the vision of our organization, a world that works for all life? How do we do that? And, knowing where we're coming, knowing the types of structures that society sits upon. Yes. So we talk, and a group of us were reading a book about how come religion is still so prevalent, the kind of religion, the structures of Christianity are still so prevalent. And if you look at the way the laws are set up, how come they still support some of that antiquated thinking? Why is that? And what causes that? Well, the thing is, laws are created based on certain beliefs. And those laws, once they're created, they're kind of hard to change. Unless, I won't say it, but you know what I'm thinking. All right. So people made the laws. You can easily identify which laws were created for the protection of society, right? Criminal law, we want to protect the society, so we've got criminal law. Which ones are to protect a certain portion of society while leaving others behind, like women, like some laws, well, it might inadvertently affect people with uteruses, but it's more important that we have this law that we're going to use to protect a certain portion of society that we care about. Or you had slavery. Oh, well, we have some laws, but let's not, the law doesn't need to equally protect everybody, does it? I know we say that, but in the Declaration of Independence, but everybody, maybe not everybody. And then once slavery was over, then you had Jim Crow. And say, it's kind of mostly equal, sort of. So a lot of times we have law in society that was created by those who create laws in order to keep certain power in power, even though certain others are forgotten or thrown by the wayside and they don't have a voice, so it doesn't make much difference. And this is the stuff that we inherit when we're born into our families and born into the current life that we all live. So the question is, and I haven't even talked about South Africa and Germany, it happens all over. So the question is, So we're born into a certain society and we're raised in families that just want us to stay alive. So they teach us not to make a fuss and they teach us things that'll keep us alive. Great. At what point do we get to re-examine all the things we believe and all of the setups that we have and then examine that and reject that which is no longer working? It's no longer serving. How do we say, guys, I think it's broken, right? So we do that, and it happens over the years. There are uprisings, and we get together, and we do social justice. In fact, that's what Jesus was all about. He wasn't all about, hey, I need to look great and live in a mansion and have nice things. Jesus was like, I am the least of you, and whatever you did for the least of us, that you did for me. He was all about that. And so what happens? How do we make sure that we're not operating from I need to get mine, as long as everybody, I don't really care about other people, as long as I get mine. And it's interesting because we will complain about the status quo, as we should, and we will point out when things are wrong. But what are we going to do about it? So I have like 3 things to discuss. First, and I never know which I'll do first, but I feel like the one that wants to be done first is this little story about university graduates who came to visit their old professor. And they were fussing, as you know, university graduate students are wont to do. They were complaining about all the problems with society, all the problems with the climate, and all the problems, every problem, because university graduates, they're in the thick of noticing it all and asking questions. So they came over to their old professor's house, and they're fussing. So he goes in the kitchen and makes he brews a delicious pot of coffee. And on a tray, he brings this tray of cups from his cupboard out to the graduate students and sets it on the table. Beautiful pot of coffee. So you imagine this, right? Beautiful coffee, lots of different cups. So the cups ranged from styrofoam to beautiful porcelain, delicate teacup, to intricately, artistically potted. So every different type of cup you could imagine, from the most ornate to the most plain, was placed on this tray in the table in the middle of these graduate students. And so they got excited. There's coffee, it smells good, and they went to go pick their cups. And darn it, if every one of them did not try to get the most beautiful, most ornate, most wonderful cup. And he said, okay, great. I see that each of you picked the best cups from the tray, and you left behind the plain, the worn out, and the non-interesting ones. And he says that's, let's learn a little bit from this. If life is the coffee in the coffee pot, why is it that we are intrinsically drawn to the most beautiful, the most ornate, the best, everybody's gonna get the same drink inside their cup? Why was it so important that you guys started scrambling for the best one? And they started thinking about it, because they did, and they were starting to, when they had scrambled to get the cups, they were fussing over who got what. And he said, that is the question that you need to be asking yourselves, because what you look at when you see a world that's unjust, you see a world that is greedy, you see we've used all our resources and everybody's trying to scramble, and who cares what happens to the other guy as long as I get my beamer. That's the energy that we're bringing to it. And life is life. We all are living this life. That's the coffee. And really, does it really matter what the vessel is? Does it really, at the end of the day, does it really matter if you have the most beautiful cup? And I imagine that those students were quiet for quite a while, because isn't that the case? We get so distracted by the shiny objects and the pretty thing. I need it to look the best. And then we start, it's not just for ourselves, because there's something to be said for aesthetic pleasures. But if we start to behave this way so that we can hoard and consume and grab the nicest things and get it before anybody else can get it, just for the sake of having it, I think we are ourselves the problem. And so I was reading some of our faves, and we have many faves in this in our teaching, right? We've got Ernest Holmes, and we've got lots of New Thought teachers. And this one quote I want to read to you from Richard Rohr, and he says that back when society first formed with the religious basis, a lot of times they talked about sin, and you need to avoid sin at all costs. And sin is whenever you're doing bad things. And he said that sometimes the word sin has been overused, and instead it's really our shadow side. He says, because the closer you get to the light, the more of a shadow you'll cast. Imagine that. The closer you get to the light, the more of a shadow that you cast. And the shadow in psychology and in spirituality, it means the part of us that we're not that willing to own. It's the ugly part that we want to pretend doesn't exist. So what happens is, if we've got a shadow part of us that maybe you feel you're not good enough, and that's my favorite go-to, oh, not good enough, never good enough. Well, what it shows up in my life, it'll show up as someone said something which proves I'm not good enough, and I overreact because I have a certain belief about myself that I didn't handle. And if someone makes a comment, I jump right to, they see it too, and then I'm fussy. I have a reaction that doesn't match, right? And you may have said something to someone benign. You might have said a little phrase everybody says every day, and all of a sudden, right? You insulted me. I think, ma'am, that there might be something you're not dealing with. And you don't want to say that out loud because they're already triggered. But I'm just saying, how do you know if there's a shadow part of yourself that you're not dealing with? Well, one thing is, if your reactions are a little too much for the situation at hand, check out your shadow. What are you running from? And the closer we get to understanding and enlightening ourselves, the more our shadow will play a part. So what does Richard Rohr say? Well, he says, the problem is that we all identify with our persona so strongly when we're young that we become masters of denial and learn to eliminate or deny anything that doesn't support our persona. So it's not evil. Our persona, that the thing that's bad about us is not evil in and of itself. But what happens is we'll tell ourselves, I'm doing this for your good. We might be doing something really unsavory, but we could tell ourselves, well, I'm doing it for their good. I'm doing it. And so that could be the fact that we're unable to look at some of our negative reactions to things. We could pretend that we're doing it for someone else's good. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take all of the candy on Halloween. I don't know why that came up, but let me just listen. I'm going to teach them a lesson. Don't leave an unattended bowl of candy on your porch and say just one, because obviously we're not going to do that. So I'm going to just take it all and teach them a lesson. Is that what you're doing? Or is it? That's just a small example, but a lot of times we do what we know isn't right and we pretend it's for some higher. No, it's not. And he says, usually everybody else can see your shadow. So it's crucial that you learn what everyone else already knows about you, except you. So how do we look at our shadow? Well, he says that the person who's enlightened, the person who's come closest to the light, realizes that they're not always going to be right about stuff. And that is when you allow your shadow to share some of that space with you. You're not going to always be perfectly right. And you can't be right anyway. What do we try to do? If we're trying to be more in alignment with the divine, we try to be in the right relationship. We try to be in right relationship, which means not trying to get it all, not trying to take everything before somebody else gets to it. It's being a little more humble. In fact, the more people brag about themselves, the less you know that they really know themselves. Because the most enlightened people they're humble. They're humble. They're not telling you how great they are. And he says, well, hold on, this denied and disguised self. So think about this. If you're walking through life, not trying to see your shadow, then he says, this denied and disguised self takes so much energy to face, awaken and transform, you have to do it all your life. You have to, this self, you're looking and you're examining yourself. And he says, you have very little time left to project your fear, your anger, or your unlived life onto terrorists, Muslims, socialists, liberals, conservatives, even hate TV. You can't. You don't have time to point at all the problems. This is the problem. That's the problem. It's like the professor. He heard these graduate students in there fussing and complaining. Here's the problem. And he's like, let me show you what the real problem is. And they proved it. It's in ourselves. And if we were able to pull out of ourselves and look at the issues and work on ourselves, then that would help, because we're all one in Dresnet. If I heal myself, able to face my shadow self, able to love myself, even though I'm not perfect, then you can do that too. And then that's how we change the world, because we're not going to get love out of hating. We're not going to say, well, I don't like those people, but I'm going to let my love transform. I don't like you, but I'm going to let love transform you. Wait, what? It's not, it doesn't work like that. So how does that look? Because I know that I'm saying all these nice things on a Sunday, but you're thinking possibly, but how does that look? Because you might say, I live in, pick a town that's typically what we call urban, or what we call, God forbid, a ghetto. Let's say you live in an area that is now being overrun by, you got it, gentrification. And usually you go down to the corner store, to the bodega, and you get something at the bodega, but then now it's an artisan coffee shop with avocado toast, and you're just like, what's happening in my town? And you would be rightfully upset, but what do you do? Now, we talk about this on Sunday, but what do you do about it? Well, I want to talk to you about this lady who lives in Durham, Raleigh-Durham area, where Duke University is. And her name, and this is really huge, I wish I had pictures to show you, but Mamie Webb Bledsoe. She lives in the Duke area, in Durham community. And what happened in that area is that I want to say whatever they, okay, in the 1990s, Durham had a tobacco and textile industry, but it started to recede, and a lot of the people in the area lost their jobs. Their core community, their morale went down, the quality of life went down, and crime was going up. What happened next? Well, the city's flagship educational institute, known as Duke University, rose. It was rising up. More and more professionals moving into the area, professors and students. And this is not a cheap university. It costs money to go there. So a lot of people were coming into the community that had means. And so you had an influx of highly educated people and outsiders who assumed certain things. And then you had properties that were going down on the decline. You could hear it coming. A bodega being replaced by an avocado toast artisan coffee shop, but not on Mamie's watch. What she did, she got together with Duke University and the Raleigh-Durham neighborhoods, and they created the Duke-Durham Neighborhood Partnership Program, where they did this in 1996. They had a goal that they would listen to the community, partner with the community, and grow that community as the university grew. And there's a lot of really great information about it online, but I'll just read to you a little bit. After 2 years of listening sessions that Mamie put together, the Duke-Durham Neighborhood Partnership they had a focused goal, an organized way for them to work and empower the neighborhoods surrounding the university. Mamie was recruited to be part of the change. She knew Durham. Her credibility was important in facilitating the voice of the neighbors that she served. Over the past several decades, Duke has participated in listening sessions, charities and strategic, it says charrettes, so that's a thing, but I don't know what that is, and strategic planning, and responded as a partner with the community to what they heard. So Duke, working with the community, created areas. They got together and built housing, they called it projects, but it wasn't. A project is just a project. It doesn't have to be a rundown project. So they created assisted living, a whole building, multiple apartments for assisted living. They created accessible housing. They actually did things to empower the people so they could stay in their homes and afford the homes that they stayed in. And this is a leading flagship for other organizations and other conscious people that don't want the good progress being made by some to step on and oppress those that are currently living in that neighborhood. There is a way to work together. And so if you want to know more, I can't tell you all of it. It's 5 or 6 pages I could, but just go to this site. It's everydaydemocracy.org. everyday-democracy.org. There are other stories like this that encourage us to work together to make a difference and to make things better for everyone. Now, as a person who's sitting there, you might say, okay, well, that's great for them, but what can I personally do? Like right now, what could I do? And I'd say it depends on your demographic. Now, if you are a person who was born into the majority, so if you're a white person who just rode on the infrastructure of the societal, what would Sunday call it? She'd say you rode on white supremacy all the way to the top. You were kind of going with the current, Reverend Sunday, our other leader. And so if you are a person that has been enjoying the current, just going with the flow because you look like everybody else, what you could do is start to expose yourself to things that don't quite look like you. For example, there are a couple Netflix shows out. One of them has to do with how the movie industry kind of inadvertently or maybe on purpose trashed the transsexual community so that they created a animosity toward any man who is dressed as a woman because he identifies as a woman, to the point where in every show they showed these trans men being mistreated, and reactions that just it shaped society's reaction to transsexuals in a way that's, oh my gosh, not so great. Kind of like what happened with the way that they've marginalized, like media has marginalized a lot of African American community. There were years where the only job an actor could get is to play a thug on the street. And so that shapes people's opinions. And you'd think that it wouldn't shape everyone's opinion. What does our society and our ills have to do with people halfway around the world? Well, they're watching too. They're watching as well. And so when I'm African American, when I get into a cab in India and they see I'm African American, all they can think of could be, oh my gosh, you guys are criminals, right? Because that's all they've seen. And this is what happens when not everybody can tell their own story. And so one thing we can do, if we're not part of the LGBTQ community, watch some very interesting shows. I do have some links for you later that will help you just see from their point of view. Just get in, go all the way in and see what it's like from these voices that speak for themselves through media and through story. See what it's like. Or maybe there's just so many. There's Breaking Fast. There's a film called Breaking Fast, talks about people who are practicing Muslims and a lot of things that we may not have been exposed to. Maybe you didn't have Muslims in your family or in your community, and all you've ever seen was them being portrayed as terrorists. And every time they pray, many times a day, oh, that's right before they blow up something, because that's all we have teaching us in our media. Well, there's a lot of different films. So you could do your own personal film festival and travel all around the world and see what it's like from the eyes of the people whose voices don't get to be heard all the time. These are the things we can do today, because if we are one, and it's true we are, and if it's true that we want a world that works for all life, then it is up to us to see life from many points of view so we can include them in our bubble of love. We're not going to fix anything by pointing at them and telling them they're bad. And who's them anyway? We begin to heal by embracing the love that is already present and pointing that love at whatever area seems to need it, even if it's our own. So I encourage you today to look at your shadow. Anytime you have a moment of hyperreaction, let that be a call to yourself to bring yourself back in and love yourself through it, and just really embrace, because we really are one, and what we do for ourselves will affect the entire planet. Time flies when you're having fun. I had so much more to tell you, but my time is up. Let's go into prayer. I know that right here and right now, there is just one presence. There's not many. There's just one, the divine. Whether you think of it as Mother, Father, God, or the Goddess, or infinite presence, whatever you call it, this power that created each and every one of us, this divine loving energy that knows all and is all, it's right here. We don't have to look outside of ourselves. It is right here within each and every one of us. And it is perfect. There's no separation. There's no distance. There's no place I have to go or be or try to be good enough to get to. It's right here. And I am created on purpose by this divine energy. It knew what it was doing when it created me. And this is true for you. You are on purpose right here, right now. And so knowing that there is only the divine, knowing we are one with it, I speak my word of peace and of love for every individual. Every individual, anyone who is suffering, anyone who is going through any sense of lack or limitation, any appearance of sick, of any disease, I speak my word that right where you are, right where Janet is, right where Mimi is, there is the divine wholeness expressing itself. Perfect wholeness, perfect oneness is unfolding right now, right into their lives. It is happening. And each and every one of us that wants to know more is given little insights, little whispers of what to do next, little links, if you will, to grab onto and to explore, because this is our higher self pulling us up to its greater yet to be. It is never over. We're always unfolding and we are never done. That is the beauty of being on this planet. Even as we move into our next great challenge or great celebration, I know that all is perfectly unfolding right now. And so I give thanks that this is the case. I give such gratitude for being aware and to be able to speak my word into this law, because it always gives back exactly the energy that was pressed into it. It always says yes. And so as I release my word, I know that it is already done. I just simply say, thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, Mother, Father, universal goodness. And so it is. Ashe. And Dan and Aaron, Soul Pajamas, you're up next.
Here we are. This is a wonderful song by an artist named Peter Mayer.
You can say that you stand apart, put a fence around your yard. You can build a tall rampart and guard it with a gun. You can dig yourself a moat, burn the bridge and burn the boat. It won't matter much, you know, 'cause all the world is one. All the world is one. You can march in a big parade every Independence Day. You can raise up your own flag and sing your own anthem. It'll rise up in the air with all the other anthems there. To the evil girl to pair that all the world is one. All the world is one. Go and ask the Buddha when he's sitting under the tree. Go ask Walt Whitman when he's looking out to sea. Ask Alan Shepard when he's standing up on the moon, staring at that pearl of blue. Ask an atom in the breath you take. Ask the water by the riverbank. Ask a strand of DNA that's written in your blood. One life running in your veins, one light from one big bang. You can try to separate it, but all the world is one. All the world is one. Go and ask the Buddha when he's sitting under the tree. Ask Annie Dillard when she's up on Tinker Creek. Ask Alan Shepard when he's standing up on the moon, staring at that pearl of blue. Whoa. You can take an outbound train, try to make a getaway. You can ride off like John Wayne into the setting sun. But earthlings don't leave town, they just go round and round until they figure out all the world is one. All the world is one. All the world is one.
That was fantastic. Yeah, that was lovely. Thank you. Soul Pajamas. Dan and Aaron, you guys do it for us every time. Now is the time to bless the donations. It's time to give that we're sharing today. There are many ways to give. You see on the screen ways to support CSL Leesburg. At CSL Leesburg, we believe in the law of circulation. So we are a tithing community. The donations shared with our center bless everyone, those who give and those who receive. Your donation helps our center, our CLS home organization, as well as organizations that support our vision of helping to create a world that works for everyone. Please look at our screen. There are many ways to give. It's easy to find a way that works best for you. You may also go on our website, cslleesburg.org, and click the donate button. Now, we thank you for your support. No matter how you are giving, take that gift physically or mentally, place it over your heart, and join us in our affirmation of oneness. This presence of spirit within me blesses everyone I meet, tends to heal everything I touch, brings gladness into the life of everyone I contact. Therefore, I am a blessing to myself, to humankind, and to the day in which I live. Now it's time for announcements. So if you're available on Tuesday mornings, please consider joining us for Dream Study with Charlene. And on Wednesdays, we have our weekly sessions. And this week, on Wednesday, we're going to be focusing on society. How do we show up? All right, so if you can do that, that would be great. The next thing is we have a new class. It's still open. One class is still open, and that's tomorrow's class that is on every Monday. It's not going to be tomorrow, since tomorrow is, as I mentioned earlier at the start of our program, with spending time with her family right now. But the following Monday, the class will be welcoming newcomers. So if you're interested, please register. The tuition is $175. There's no prerequisite, so you can just go ahead and register at cslleesburg.org/classes. All right, so we are going to, as we end this sacred time together, let us once again place our hands over our hearts. And everybody, if you've joined before with Tamara, she likes you to unmute your mic. So let's do that and send some love to Tamara. And join me in saying, I am love.
I am love.
Yes, you are love.
You are
love.
And it's all love.
It's all love.
Yeah. So if you can stay for a few more minutes, please feel free to join us as we share our pearls, those little nuggets of our service that spoke to our hearts and minds. And if you're a visitor, please stay and introduce yourself. Would love the opportunity to officially greet you. And on the other hand, if you have to leave us, we know that you will have a day filled with love, joy, and blessings. Thank you for joining us today.